How do you buy 10 and how much does it cost?
The Babbit?
The Babbit.
Both.
How do you buy them?
Okay, so when I bought the Babbit, my wife did a lot of the research for me. You could only buy a minimum of 56 pounds. Cost $1,500, and that was 3 years ago, so I don't know what it is now.
Wow.
Granted, you can do a lot of blocks and a lot of Model Ts on 56 pounds.
This is like 1 block.
Yeah, that's just one.
Is that a pound?
Nah, it's more like 2 pounds.
What grade of Babbit is it?
What grade? Here, Ted. Pass this around so people can read it. I've got a block up here that is old Ford Babbit. It actually says Ford on it.
Okay.
And then the new Babbit right there, you can actually pass that block of Babbit around too, Ted, if people want to see it more.
Are you supposed to reuse that?
No. It's got too much stuff into it. Like the oils get into the Babbit, you get little fibers and metal get into it, and you don't want any of that. You want nice, good, pure Babbit in a rebuilt motor. Now, if you're doing a static display or something like I did a cutaway motor, okay, I used some old junk Babbit I had laying around. It does pour, it does melt back down, but it does have a lot of crack into it that you don't want in there. You see how it's turning black or blue? Didn't know I was going to put it to work, did they? So when it's dark blue like this, like a navy blue, when the steel turns its color, it's about 300 degrees. When it gets to that dark navy blue, it starts to get lighter colored, almost to a gray color. That's when you're about 425.
You taught me how to do this, Tom.
I watched a couple YouTube videos and then you just trial and error. You know, you can pretty much do anything with a YouTube video anymore. I mean, you can literally do a lot. But it was trial and error and see which works best. I actually watched several different ones and I took a little bit from all of them to do it. When you do the tinning part of it, it's pretty neat because as soon as you I melt a little bit of Babbit. Some people use solder. I just use little scrap pieces. And you melt a little bit of Babbit on it and use that soldering salts with a brush. And as soon as you touch it, you just start moving it. It just like, it's weird how it just climbs right up and you brush it on the surface you want it on and that's where it stays. And then the part's tinned. So you can pour it, and it'll stick right to it. So I just melt a little Babbit. Grab some of this soldering salts out of here and get it on my brush.
Did you put a little Babbit in there first?
Yep, melt it just a little bit into it first.
Then use the salt?
Then use the salts. There you go.
That's it?
That's it. That's all it is for tinning.
Wow.
How does that not burn out when you heat it up more for the Babbit?
It just stays right on
It
it.
just stays there.
It stays right on it. If the smoke gets really bad in here, right behind you is a window. You can open it, feel free, open it right up. I don't think we're gonna lag for heat in this place today. How's your Babbit going there, Erica? Just
got a
starting to
bubble.
warm up?
I got one bubble.
Okay, good. Looking at all the different tools.
You know, amazes me how that tinning would follow that so.
You're sandblasting the cap, what about the block? How are you cleaning the block?
The block, I just do, so like if I'm doing some extra cleaning on the parts, so like that part there, I polished up. I use a flapper wheel on a die grinder, and then when you're done, carb cleaner, because carb cleaner won't leave a film, spray it all over the part and compressed air and blow everything right off. And then that's what I do even before after I tin the part and before I put it together on the jig, same deal. You go through the whole deal again. The tin is on there. It's not gonna come off. I'll spray it with carb cleaner, brush it real good to make sure there's nothing on it, blow it all off, and then put it together on the jig for pouring. Yes?
So how is Erica melting the Babbit over there?
Okay, that is a, where'd you get it through? Bass Pro Shop or something like that?
Bellas. It's
It's
for doing
just-
weights for fishing.
Yeah, just
Lures.
lead
No
silver, yeah.
friction weights or pull.
And it'll get up to 900 degrees. So
How
it works
hot does the
really
Babbit
good.
have to get? Babbit has to
850.
melt it.
850. It'll turn to be like glass after a while. You'll look at it, the liquid, when it's real clear and it's really hot. It's just like looking in a mirror.
Is it electric?
This little
Yeah.
heater, yes, yep, yep.
You said something about using a different process on the block.
Yes.
Is that because it's cast iron or just because it's hard to keep hot?
Well, your main caps are all cast iron, okay, and your rods are cast iron, or casted. Yeah, this here, there's 2 or 3 different ways you can pour on it. Okay, you can do a cold pour. Thank you. But I'm not steady enough to pour with 2 ladles at the same time. So I actually use the same jig and heat the block up a little bit, not a lot, just heat it up enough to get some moisture out of it and stuff. You know, maybe 400 degrees. And then I heat the jig really good on top, and then I can pour. And
Just
then
keep it from freezing before it
yeah,
gets all the way around?
before it cools off completely, while it's still warm, you grab your little peening hammer and you gotta stick it down in there and you gotta bang it and beat it. So as the Babbit's cooling, it's actually forcing that Babbit back into the place where it's gotta be for on the block. Otherwise, if you don't do it, it'll actually shrink back away and you'll have gaps. And then your Babbit will just float.
Is that just because you can't get the block hot enough to begin with?
Yeah.
How does that do, that's the difference between that and a
Yeah.
rod cap?
Yeah, it's the difference between it. I mean, that's in the factory. They were doing cold pours. They just had a bar they laid down here, and they were just going through with a ladle and pouring them, pulling it off, and sending it. I mean, that's just how they did it in the factory, you know. But I like using the jig. I got more control of it. I can get a lot better pour than using the K.R. Wilson style jig. It just, to me, works better. Different people do it different way. But the big thing is to make sure you peen it. The block does have anchor holes in it. So the Babbit will go down into those anchor holes. That helps hold the Babbit in place too.
You peen it after you pour?
After I pour it, before it cools off. Yep.
I've seen that process.
And, you know, I've had many times where that's went bad, and sometimes you don't always get a good pour, okay? So sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries on different things. I like to shoot for the one time, because I'm wasting less Babbit.
How hot is that part?
400 right now.
Cooling off there.
I found this works about the best. And I'll try not to singe anybody's eyebrows.
Wouldn't acetylene be too concentrated in one spot and not reheat everything?
You know, I've never tried it with acetylene as far as propane. Everybody, the videos I've watched, everybody's using propane. I don't know if one leaves any type of a residue to it or not. I don't know. So I just stuck with the propane because that's what everybody seems like they're using.
Cheap.
Yeah, and it is definitely cheaper.
Or get flame and bake the acetylene.
Yeah.
Better roast on
Yeah, I would imagine the acetylene gets really hot. This cap here that I got right now, this is a rear main cap. So this will have the thrust on the ends. This one uses about the most Babbit there is on any of the bores I do because it's got to get down, go all the way over, fill all the way up along the sides on the both edges and both ends, and then down the center. When you make a good pour, sometimes you'll actually see little streaks that shoot right out the ends. The jig has little vents on it. When you're pouring in it, the air has got to get out, so the vents, it'll fill right up to the vents and shoot Babbit right out of it. This is definitely a cold weather job. I've done it in the summer before. I've got every door open in this place, one into the other, and fans trying to pull the heat out of here. It gets so hot.
What temperature do you get?
I'm shooting for 650 to 700 on this one. This one here needs a little extra heat. And that's even the fixture too. I want the fixture just as hot as the main can. If everything's at the same temperature, when it pours in, and you can get a better pour.
How thick will the shell be when you're done?
A little more than 1/8 of an inch. I'd say like 3/16. And then when you put it all together on the block, there's plenty of there to cut out when you're doing the machining. I usually use that old machine right back there. Everybody's sitting by. That's a KR Wilson combination machine. So right now, that's just a Model A block sitting on it. And that is set up like if I was going to bore it. And I bored cylinders on it. It works just great. Just got to hold them really good when you're done. And then I've got the jig that sits onto it, so you can line bore the block and the main caps all together at once.
You do anything special to keep the Babbit from sticking to the fixture?
The fixture is not tin.
That's the only thing.
Yep, that's what helps it. If it was tin, it would stick right to the fixture.
I've seen videos where they use a carburizing acetylene flame to seal
Yep.
up the
Put a little soot on it. I've seen where they've done that too. So far, I've never had a problem with it ever sticking on. And I think a lot of that attributes to not putting any tin on.
yeah.
It's just sandblasted. I also put that thing in the sandblasting cabinet before I sandblast on or do anything with it because it just needs to be clean. If it gets rusty, yep, the fixture gets rusty just like the rest of it.
This is still super.
Yep.
Always.
I got a few more minutes.
Still too lumpy.
bolt right on the side. You put a, it's called a false cam down the center. The jigs come in and they bump right against it. You bolt it right on the bottom of the block and turn the block on that fixture plate. It's sitting on a fixture plate there. Turn it so it's this way and hook everything up and just turn it on and let it feed through. It has a very, very, very fine threaded shaft, and then there are nuts on the end. When you clamp that lever over and it's running, it just slowly feeds it out. It does a very, very, very good job. I'm very impressed. That's 1920s technology.
You ever try or look at the one with that guy out in Colorado built?
No. Is that the ones out of aluminum that you can lay right on there? Yeah.
I bought one of those and sent it to my friends in Germany.
Okay.
And they've used it several times and had good luck with it.
They do make other ones, yes. How you coming over there?
Look at some
Okay.
harder stuff.
We'll just keep it warm.
I think our class is
Well, there's a lot there. I think he's
not sure you're heating up this quick.
squared it. I use, right on that cart there, there's a bucket of anti-heat compound. The anti-heat compound I use to, any cracks, I think any of the Babbit's gonna come out, I stick that, smash that right up in there to keep it as a dam to keep Babbit from falling out. You don't want a liquid leak, otherwise it'll leak and it'll stop and then you'll have a void.
Great, great. It's over 8.
It's getting there. Good. This thing is heavy. It's heavy.
They're gonna have to open that.
Say what?
They have to open that window.
It's getting hot.
Next to the pipe over here.
What's that?
Is this the typical time it takes?
Yeah, it's time consuming job.
Probably yes.
You start pouring, it's an all day job. That's what it usually is for me.
Morning.
Once you start, I don't stop. Now, if I had 3 or 4 jigs, right now all I've got is one main cap jig and one rod jig.
You make those trees up yourself?
The jigs, I bought all that stuff, the KR with that combination machine. When I bought it, it had a bunch of stuff with it. That's why I went for it when I seen it. And I had everything to do A's and T's. So,
It's got stuff you can use too.
and they have, you know, B motors and things like that too. So it was one of those deals that you couldn't refuse. I had to go a long ways to get it. But yeah, these here particular jigs were with it. I haven't made any more. I need to, because it would be nice to have them all put together and then you could just do a bunch more. But I try to do a main cap, and then I'll do a rod cap. I got a 4th main in there, the ball cap in there right now. I'm gonna pour with that. That jig I did make because nobody had one for pouring, so I made my own design. Works pretty good too. Pull the door down and look in there if you want.
Is that a heat treat oven?
That's just your run-of-the-mill toaster oven.
Say if it's a heat treat oven, you could get it to
Oh yeah,
650.
yeah. That there is just basically to get it started.
Yeah.
It gets it there, then you don't have so far to go with it when you got to heat it. 850.
Ready?
Yep. See the bat would come out that end.
Kind of anticlimactic.
It is. It is.
Yep, that's it.
All that for this.
Done. Yep. Yeah, it's a good pour. Come out on both ends.
So when do you start hammering it?
This here you don't. This here you just let it all cool down and then tear it apart.
So is that cap in tin?
That cap was
That's
tin.
tin.
Yep. Yep. I had tinned a rod cap, a main cap, and the ball cap, the 4th main on the end, the other night before all this. And I wanted one to show you what goes in for tinning. Might as well put that right back in because
Still,
and keep it warm.
it's pretty though, shiny.
It amazed me how that tinning followed the salt.
Oh, right.
It just followed the salt.